Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wiseburn Unified School District's question and answer session regarding COVID-19 and the safety protocols here in Wiseburn. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Blake Silvers, and I'm the proud superintendent of the Wiseburn Unified School District. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Eileen Harbeck, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. I'm joined by Dr. Nisha Dougal, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and our District COVID-19 Compliance Officer, joined by Mrs. Peggy Massarella, our Director of Special Education and Psychological Services, Mr. David Wilson, our Chief Business Official, and my Executive Assistant, Mrs. Wendy Subaki, who will be reading the questions for the panel today. First, I want to thank our team in Wiseburn, our staff, our teachers, our students, our community, for the instrumental role you play in the success of the district. I want to thank our Board of Trustees, President Israel Mora, Vice President and Clerk, Dr. Neil Goldman, and members Mrs. Joanne Canetta, Mr. Roger Banuelos, and Mr. Nelson Martinez. Their leadership and support has been instrumental and definitely deserving of recognition. These are unprecedented times, and as you have likely seen on the news over the last few weeks, the circumstances regarding COVID-19 continue to change at a rapid rate. Just about a month ago, we were looking at a 7.6 positive cases per 100,000 residents in LA County. But yesterday, just a few weeks later, the number has almost tripled to 20.2 per 100,000 residents. But I want to share that we are still committed to bringing students back when and where possible. We are committed to finding innovative ways to support the social interaction between our students, and we have an excellent team of counselors and psychologists who are dedicated to the mental and social emotional health of our students. I'll start the session tonight by reviewing our current circumstances and the safety protocols that we have in place here at Wiseburn via a PowerPoint presentation. Following this presentation, we will answer the questions our families submitted. Please note that we received more than 70 questions, but there were some duplicates. We organized the questions by theme and will answer them accordingly. Also, note that the information changes quickly and some of the questions we do not have answers to yet. We will continue to gather information and plan to keep an updated FAQ section on our website to include the questions we answered tonight and also other pertinent questions that may come up as regarding our response to COVID and the reopening of schools. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up our PowerPoint presentation. Can you see this? Just a quick thumbs up, so I know, okay. So just most of the pictures here you'll see are pictures from the field, we call it, from our school sites. And I have given this presentation a few times, so bear with me. We have updated some of the numbers, but definitely wanted to share with the larger audience the protocols that we put in place here related to distancing, equipment, hygiene, screening, and tracing in Wiseburn Unified as part of our safety protocols. So we start looking at distancing and equipment. We are maintaining 6-foot physical distancing as a requirement throughout our district facilities. We do have signage and markings across all of our facilities as reminders for our staff and any students that are coming to school. Congregation is minimized through the use of teleconferencing or Zoom as needed. We also are limiting room occupancy, and there's designated one-way paths, again, and markings on the floor to help keep 6-foot distancing. In-person gatherings of any size are discouraged, but may not exceed 10 at this point. In terms of equipment, we're well stocked in equipment. We have what we call P.P.E or personal protective equipment. It's readily available at all of our sites. Face coverings have been distributed to all of our staff, and they are on site as we have visitors too that may need to use this equipment. So just to the right here in this graphic, as I mentioned, our PPE is well stocked. We have masks, face shields, thermometers, hand sanitizer, isolation gowns, gloves, and we also have a set of 5 foggers that we use to help disinfect our facilities and our classrooms as needed. So then taking a look at some of our other protocols related to hygiene and screening. In terms of hygiene, it's very important that we continue to reiterate the importance of hand washing, and so we've included signs above all of our sinks district-wide so that students and staff just get that reminder about the importance of hand washing. Hand sanitizers also available in areas throughout our campuses, strategically located, also in every classroom. And when students and/or staff are not able to wash their hands at the sink, that hand sanitizer is accessible. We're also going to be practicing and are practicing wellness screenings. These screenings are conducted prior to anybody being able to enter our facility when feasible. There are some circumstances, and in the case of inclement weather, when we may not be able to do it before entering the facility, but definitely it would be at the entry point of the facility. If there were any affirmative responses to this wellness screening, any red flags, we would immediately red flag, the workflow would immediately flag that affirmative response, and then we would take precautions necessary to isolate that individual and handle that accordingly as well. In terms of testing, COVID-19 testing is recommended by health officials. It's not required. And for those who are symptomatic or close contacts, we definitely would recommend testing. However, again, it's only a recommendation at this point and not a requirement. And we can provide from our school sites and/or from the district office information on where to get tested. Surveillance testing is part of our plan as it relates to the LA County Department of Health K-12 protocols. It's very important we follow these. And surveillance testing simply means that we do have a plan in place should LA County Department of Health come in and say we need to test a group of people, whether it be a group of staff members at one of our school sites, a group of students. Should there be a spike in a certain area of our district, we may have to run surveillance testing. And we do have a process by which we'd be able to do surveillance testing for our staff. In terms of tracing, we do have a very robust tracing protocol. I want to thank Dr. Dougal and the team for putting together that protocol. And we're actually tracking any confirmed cases of COVID-19, any close contacts, as well as those people that may be symptomatic, whether they tested positive or not. And those people that are involved in tracing include our liaison with the Department of Public Health, our nurse. It also includes our human resources representatives, our COVID compliance officer, Dr. Dougal, and our site administrators. And again, just pictures from the field, just to see some of the changes that we've made to our facilities. To the left here, we see our custodian and ANZ array. These high touch point areas are being disinfected and or sanitized regularly. We have purchased these plexiglass partitions for every desk on our campus so that when students do return, we will have this barrier between the students and other students and or the teacher. And then this would be an example of a wellness check center where we have a staff member in PPE gear being able to take temperatures and basically clear any visitors and or staff members and students before coming onto campus. And then we talk a lot about cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing. And so just to clarify some of the terms here, when we talk about cleaning, we're talking specifically about removing dirt and impurities from surfaces or objects. And general cleaning is what we do on a day-to-day basis. We've actually moved into what we would call an enhanced cleaning protocol, and that's where we are doing more disinfecting and or sanitizing of high touch points, counter spaces, those areas that are frequently visited and or touched by hands or people. And then disinfecting is what we do on the door handles and or these high touch surfaces, which is using a solution to kill germs and to do so regularly. And then sanitizing is a little bit the next level up, and that's reducing germs on surfaces or objects by continuing to sanitize these areas. And then we did receive some questions regarding our HVAC systems and ventilation. And so we do understand the importance of airflow and maintaining good ventilation in our classrooms. So, I kind of joke that I think I've learned more about HVAC systems over the last, few months than I ever thought I would. But just to take it, down to level where we'll understand the HVAC systems that we have they're good HVAC systems, are routinely maintained. And what we've done is we've set them to a setting where we're maximizing the indoor-outdoor air exchange instead of recycling the air inside. And that's, again, another recommendation that we've received from the county or the CDC in terms of bringing air in from the outside, exchanging that with the air inside and flushing it out, as opposed to just recycling the air on the inside of the classrooms and inside of our buildings. All our filters are changed every 3 months. They've been upgraded to the highest efficiency possible. We're taking a look now at aftermarket air purifiers. We just wanted to make sure that they're effective and that they work, to add another layer of safety. And some of the easy ways to increase ventilation is to keep doors open and to use outdoor spaces whenever possible, and of course, weather permitting. So actions that we've taken to prepare instructional spaces. This has been in the planning and execution stage for quite some time now, but that's that we've set up our classroom spaces, again, to adhere to our 6-foot distancing, more when we can or where we can, to separate students from adults with that 6-foot distancing. And if you can see here, this is just a sample picture here at the bottom of my screen of what a classroom would look like. And just to note that the counter spaces are clear, the front of the class desks are clear, and there's good pathways here for our custodial staff and our maintenance staff to be able to enter these classrooms, clean these high-touch surfaces pretty quickly and efficiently, and then be able to move on to the next room. But we wanted to provide not only to remove some of the clutter and or furniture in classrooms, but also provide an easy way for our custodial staff to get in and do some deep cleaning and sanitizing. So if you look to the right here, these are the types of materials that we've then removed. So we've removed porous materials, couches, rugs, beanbag chairs, and those types of things that could carry the virus and or that just aren't as clean and as easy to clean, as would be to the left here. And so just again, some pictures from the field. You can see one of our offices. This is Anza Elementary School. Most of them look the same, but this is Anza, meaning most of the setups are essentially the same. You see our markers on the floor, 6-foot distancing. We have our check-in station here. We also have some of our first students that have returned to school. See plexiglass partitions. We have staff members that are wearing the plexiglass face shields. Of course, face coverings are required for everybody. And then to the right, this is Mr. Cornett outside of Dana, and these are just our signage. This is signage that would be on several of our buildings as they're being occupied by students and staff. Just reminders on how to keep safe from the spread of germs and COVID-19. So as we planned for in-person programs and activities, I just want to assure the community that it's undergone a very extensive review from key departments in our district. That's included our safety and risk management teams, our maintenance and operations, our business office, human resources, educational services, and special education. And as we've looked at planning for in-person programs and activities, we focused number one, top priority, staff and student safety, those people that will be on our campuses utilizing our facilities. Focusing on physical distancing, again, that 6-foot minimum. Infection control, if or should someone be symptomatic and or test positive, that we do have a means to control the infection so that we don't see outbreaks. We're able to head it off and be able to control any type of outbreak. Also, then how do we communicate? Because once there are infections and or there is any type of even perceived infection, that we have a means to communicate quickly. So we have these communication pieces already ready to go in a bank of documents, because for every person who may be involved in an infection, we would have to send a different letter, whether you're a close contact or we're just there at the site. We would let people know depending on how close they were to the situation. And so communication piece is there. It needs to be efficient and fast. And so we do have those prepared and ready to be sent out as needed. And that's equitable, making sure there's equitable access to our facilities and to our programs. And as we've looked for guidance related to reopening, as we look to guidance related to dealing with the pandemic, it's been grounded in science. All of our plans and actions, everything that we've done has been based on expert guidance to help keep our kids healthy and safe, and to keep us, our staff, healthy and safe. This includes experts from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, the California Department of Public Health, OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and then the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. We have been well connected to the experts, and the district participates in weekly calls with Los Angeles County Office of Education, Dr. Deborah Duardo, and then Dr. Barbara Ferrer from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. And that's been really vital in us planning and preparing for a return to school and or dealing with the effects of COVID-19 on our student population and staff population. And for those that haven't had a chance to receive our emails and or haven't had an opportunity to sign up, there are some additions to our communications platform, and I just wanted to share. Number one on the left is our newly updated Wiseburn Unified School District website. There's a plethora of information on our website for families to visit, to gather resources, to get updates. We also send out, or you can sign up, I'm sorry, for a COVID-19 dashboard. We're trying to send these out semi-monthly, so twice a month. We're looking to send out this dashboard with the most updated information regarding COVID-19. So that's just been an important aspect of our communication with our families. We're also sending out newsletters on a regular basis, and we have a footprint on social media via Facebook and Instagram. We have a parent guide that's accessible on our website as well, and a distance learning guide for our families. So please feel free to sort of either sign up for our dashboard and or visit our website to be able to gather this information. And just from the field, we see again some pictures here of staff and students hard at work with the proper PPE, the face coverings, the plexiglass shields, the 6-foot distancing, and then some of our tools for the trade of teaching in the distance learning model, Smartboard here on one of our middle school classrooms. And I think at this point, I will turn it over to Wendy, and we'll start with the question and answers. And I think this will inundate the page, so I'm gonna just go ahead and stop sharing my screen, Wendy.
Alrighty. The first question is, when are we reopening, specific to grade level and school site?
Okay, so that's a good question. So part of that question is we have started the process of reopening, and it comes in phases. There are phase reopening protocols. The first was for students with special needs and or students that require specialized services. So we are currently assessing students for special education. We have students that we're planning for students that need other specialized services to come to our school sites and in small cohorts and small groups to be able to support them. In terms of the greater reopening of our schools, we're also waiting for confirmation that we're approved for a TK to 2 waiver. We have submitted the waiver officially. We're just waiting for the word from the Department of Public Health as to whether or not we were granted that waiver, at which point then we would engage in the dialogue as to when we could reopen for TK K1 and 2. And then beyond that, it's a lot of more speculation as to when we can reopen for our other grade levels. So I'm going to refrain from projecting when that may happen, just because I don't want to sort of overpromise and then underdeliver on that. But certainly are hearing that they could be expanding that waiver to higher grades, and we may even get it to 6th grade to start. And so as we start gathering this information, we'll certainly make it available for our families.
Okay. Some of the questions that I have here you may have answered already, so I'll just repeat them. Has the district submitted the TK to 2 waiver? When approved, when will we start?
So yes, we have submitted and are awaiting the response from LA County Department of Public Health on our TK to 2 waiver. And when approved, we are confident it'll be approved. Then we'd engage in the dialogue as when to start. At this point, I think it's safe to say it wouldn't be before some point in January at the earliest, just considering the circumstances and the holidays that are coming up, and the break in school. But nonetheless, we would try and move quickly to get those students back to school safely, efficiently, but also making sure that we can support our youngest learners.
Will we return gradually, for example, specific grades at a time?
So basically, as the LA County Department of Public Health has rolled out the return to school protocols, a lot of that has been a phased approach. So you're going to see the first phase was allowing preschool to open. The second phase is the TK-2 waiver. Essentially, we're looking to see that they may expand that TK-2 waiver to TK to 5 or 6, sixth grade. But yeah, so just by the nature of how the Department of Health will allow us to come back, it will likely be in a phased approach. And I think that's probably the most methodical. The best way to look at returning to school anyway would be to have smaller groups come back and just sort of build on that and create a foundation of a safe return to school and building off of that foundation.
Okay. Why are we only considering a waiver for TK-2?
That is the only waiver that is available right now. So at this point, while the district or the county, sorry, and then the district within the county is in what's the purple tier, which is tier 1, the highest tier, which basically indicates community transmission, high levels of community transmission of COVID-19. The only available option for a waiver is TK-2. Again, I say this with a little hesitation, but knowing that some of the rumor mill is that this will change and they will expand that to higher grade levels here soon too. Again, that was prior to recent numbers with COVID-19 cases increasing as they have been.
These questions deal with teaching and learning. While students are on campus for instruction, what will the schedule be for remote learning? What will the schedule for hybrid look like? Are there samples? How will children have equal access to their teacher with the hybrid model?
Wendy, could you read that one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure, I'll start with the first part. While students are on campus for instruction, what will the schedule be for remote learning?
So we basically have a district leadership committee that involves district administrators, involves teachers and staff that have been visiting. We just met on Monday. We'll be meeting again in the upcoming weeks to start determining what students on campus, what instruction will look like as students do come back to campus. Also taking a look at our distance learning plans and reassessing our distance learning plans. So that team will ultimately put together what would be a recommended schedule for students to come back and what a hybrid model may look like.
Okay, and the second part of that was, what will the schedule for hybrid look like? Are there samples?
So there are lots of samples, and I could just share that there are lots of samples. We've been fortunate enough to have conversations and be able to engage with our partner county and Orange County and see some of those schools that have already been back, and also some of our local neighbors who have brought kids back in other capacities. So, definitely, we're going to just utilize some of those models, bring those to the team to take a look at and try and make it ours and make it as effective as we can for Weismer and the needs in our district.
How will children have equal access to their teacher with the hybrid model?
So that's, again, part of the planning protocol. And I know that's a big concern, and so I don't have an answer to that, the exact how to that yet. That's a very key component, trying to make a seamless sort of transition from what would be distance to a hybrid model, trying not to impact a student schedule as best, or teacher time as best possible, but again, understanding that the circumstances may not allow for a complete seamless transition, and it could be that there's changes to teachers and schedules. We're just going to try and mitigate and minimize that.
Who will be the first students to return to campus?
So the first, for now, we've had students returning to campus, and those are students who were receiving assessments, one-on-one assessments for special education students. And then we're also looking at those who require specialized services, specialized in-person services. That could be for special education students, our English language learners, and our principals are working now on students that may be completely disengaged from the content or struggling to access the content curriculum virtually. So starting to put together those cohorts of students too to bring them back. That's all considered okay, or considered it's considered acceptable at this point by the Department of Health. Again, having to minimize numbers though. We can't bring a large cohorts of kids back, but we can be pretty strategic in who we bring back to maximize that.
Okay. Will families have a choice between distance, in-person, and hybrid learning?
I want to say that absolutely parents will have a choice in this. Should we be able to reopen our schools this year, we're going to go ahead and ask parents to choose distance, hybrid, or in-person learning. But if they wanted to change at any point, we would ask that they talk to the principal to make sure that all questions are answered and that we don't disrupt the students' learning as well. So we will have a survey going out when the time comes to all of our parents and guardians.
Okay. I think you answered the second portion. It was, if we choose hybrid, can we later choose distance learning if we don't feel safe?
Right.
Will students keep the same teacher whether they choose hybrid or distance learning?
So our goal is always to maintain the classroom culture and the cohort. And so keeping classroom assignments is key to us, and we're going to work very hard at that when the time comes. This would only change if there was a safety concern with too many students on campus, whatever is allowed at that time. So we'd want to keep an eye on that. It is possible for students to be taught by another qualified teacher, though. If we had to move classrooms around, should we have any changes on campus with personnel.
Okay. Are there any changes planned to increase instructional time?
So I'm gonna, I think this is for me. And so the question there, I'm gonna assume at this point, just because of our current circumstance, that we're referring to distance learning and our virtual learning model. So I'll answer it in that light. And just as I shared earlier, there has been a district leadership committee that has studied our current distance learning plan. We have meetings set up. We've had some and have more meetings set up so that we could navigate our current schedule. Our goal is to add minutes of live instruction as we see fit and as we see will be effective for our students depending on grade levels. And we would hope to have a first draft, a revised draft before we go to break, and then be able to start potentially a new schedule by the start of the second semester. So that's about, I believe, January 15th-ish, right around January 15th for our elementary schools, and then January 22nd for our middle school.
Are students still earning letter grades?
Yes, we absolutely are offering letter grades this year. We actually are following the same grading policies that we have followed previous to COVID-19. So all grading policies are in place at all of our sites. And we continue to assess and look for learning gaps. And we also, use those grades to confer with parents and to celebrate achievement as well with our students. So very important to use the grading policy that has worked in Wiseburn for such a long time.
Why don't students have to have their camera on?
We do have some families who choose not to have their child's camera on, and this really is a privacy concern for some of our families. When teachers do encourage students to have their cameras on, but when that doesn't happen, sometimes our teachers do reach out to the parents and to the guardians to discuss this and to notify them. Sometimes parents aren't aware and would like to know this. And oftentimes the guardian would like the student's camera on, so they work together with the teacher to make that happen. I think our teachers do a fantastic job too of offering incredibly engaging lessons. They offer surveys and games, Padlets and chats so that students, even if their camera isn't on, we know that they're there and that they're engaging in the class. So there's other opportunities, even if the student's not comfortable having that camera on, for them to engage and that we know that they're part of our class.
Next section has to do with preschool and childcare. When will preschool and childcare open? Who will get priority? When will Anza preschool reopen?
Peggy, I think you're on mute.
My apologies. Okay. So we are exploring opening our extended day program and our preschool enrichment programs in January 2021. Our preschool enrichment program will be centralized at the Del Air site as soon as possible. If we launch the program earlier, we will likely start it at Cabrillo Elementary School. Priority will be given to those families who have completed registration and paid a deposit. We have hired a supervisor, a site supervisor, who's currently working with the district administrators on the program model and the logistics.
Okay. Next, plans are in the making to bring students with the highest needs back onto campus with a focus on students already placed in SDC classes and moving students with high support needs to that placement. SDC classrooms inherently teach a different curriculum than the general education. What plans are being made for general education students with high support needs who require a general education setting and curriculum? How does siloing students with disabilities based upon support needs, regardless of the curriculum they learn, peers they socialize with, or place they learn in, not violate civil rights law and the IDEA?
Okay, so schools, as we mentioned earlier, as Dr. Silvers mentioned, we are currently in the process of scheduling and providing in-person specialized services for students with the most significant learning needs. It is being done in a phased-in approach and does include students who have IEPs, but also English language learners, and as Dr. Silvers mentioned, the general education students who are struggling to access the online learning platforms. Each school is looking at their logistics and their school needs, their student needs, and how they can support those students in various different models. Students with IEPs will be offered the services based on their IEPs and their individualized learning needs. And all of the students who are going to be brought back for these specialized services will still have access to their online classrooms with their peers who they've been with, or in a hybrid model whenever that happens. But the goal is to get them on site, on campus, to be with an instructor so that they can access an instructor and hopefully be able to be more successful with learning, because the distance learning has been a challenge for many of our students, not only our students with IEPs, but students of all different sorts of needs.
Okay, this is guidelines and safety. What methods are planned to provide adequate air circulation?
So I did touch on this a little bit, or maybe a lot, but I'll reiterate it because I do think it's really important. And that said, all of our HVAC systems have been reviewed or been I guess examined. We did have to purchase 4 new HVAC systems across our district, just to make sure that they were in working condition. The ones we do have are working great. And so again, there's settings that we're using now. Instead of recycled air, having the HVAC system recycle air within the room, we're actually having that exchange from outside air to inside air, just to maximize the safety of the air within the classroom. The more circulation we can get from outside air to inside air, the better. So we have adjusted the settings on our HVAC system. Definitely a little bit harder on the systems themselves, but definitely for better health and to protect ourselves against the virus is an important move. We're also, again, looking at some simple solutions, which is keeping doors open and making sure that we allow for the cross breeze or the ventilation with doors being open and or windows where we can to have windows open. And when we can, that outdoor learning spaces could be maximized. If we can teach a lesson outside, we would like to offer those opportunities for our teachers to teach some lessons outside. And our staff has looked at locations across our district where we could utilize at our different school sites that we could utilize as outdoor learning spaces, and how we have to just sort of bolster those spaces. We'll do that as a district to help support the ventilation and airflow in outdoor spaces.
How many students and adults per classroom?
Thanks, Wendy. I think I'll take this one. In regards to the number of students in a classroom, and piggybacking off Dr. Silvers' response, is that we do want to utilize outdoor space, but most importantly, per the current LA County Department of Health guidelines, is that it's not so much how many are in a classroom, it's how many students in a cohort. So each cohort at this time, the number is 12 students maximum and 2 adults. And so those 2 adults do need to be stable adults. So it's usually a teacher, and if there's a teaching assistant, that would be in there as well. So that currently is the maximum, and that may change based on guidelines that the county gives us.
Will you do temperature checks at the door? What will drop off and pickup be like?
So in the PowerPoint that Dr. Silvers reviewed, we did talk about the health screenings or the wellness screenings. And so those will continue, and that will continue for all students, for all staff, and any essential visitor that enters our campus. And so that may require a temperature check as well as a questionnaire about, making sure they've been safe before coming onto our campus. In terms of drop off and pickup, knowing that there's going to be a health screening, it will take a little bit more time. So we're going to make sure that we have our parents prepared for that, as well as a staggered, time. So not all students would be reporting to campus at the same time, for allowing for us to keep social distance, as well as ensuring that all of our students go through the health screening before entering campus.
Will you be installing plexiglass on student desks?
So we are not installing plexiglass. We actually have the portable plexiglass available. And the reason for this is because we do want to maximize outdoor space as well. We want to ensure that we can use the plexiglass as needed. So it is available. It's actually already in use as students are back on campus for assessments or specialized services. So we do have it, and we will have additional plexiglass as we have more students coming on campus.
What is the protocol to ensure safety and social distancing?
Start with that. Okay. So basically, as I shared in my previous, and these are very, very good questions, and hopefully we're answering them, we're answering them completely. But we have, as I showed in my PowerPoint presentation, we have signage, we have markers, consistent reminders. But really, when we start talking about ensuring safety, ensuring social distancing, ensuring wearing face coverings, and those things, it's going to be adults modeling. It's going to be peer-to-peer modeling, so that it becomes the new normal. It becomes sort of the habit of coming to school with a mask on and keeping distance and so forth. So, it's very important that we all obviously post and follow these protocols, but then again, it's important that we encourage our students and our staff and those that are on campus to follow them as well, because that modeling behavior will be really helpful as we move forward.
Are there repercussions for anyone not following rules? Who will be enforcing the rules?
So we would hope, and that's a good question and a really hard one to answer. And from having visited several daycare centers, watching students in small cohorts of 10 or 12 at daycare providers across LA County, we didn't see a whole bunch of that. It was pretty clear that students, or these kids, they were keeping their distance. And I know it's not perfect. It's sort of imperfect, and hard to keep kindergartners and first graders from wanting to jump and hug and really and be close. And it's important, though, again, the modeling. In terms of repercussions, we're going to just do a lot of reiterating the rules. We're going to, again, posting signs and making sure that we teach the right way first. And then, should it come down to a point that we have to have some communication with families and or that student, we would do that as well. So we could follow up. That would be, the teacher, the administrators, staff, but we would all be accountable to making sure that people are following and that students are following the procedures and protocols.
Which guidelines does Wiseburn Unified School District follow?
Another very, very good question. So for the most part, we are following the LA County Department of Public Health guidelines. And there's a document, it's about 17 to 19 pages. It's called the LA County Department of Public Health K-12 reopening of school protocols, reopening protocols. And that can be found at their website. And we can put that on this FAQ when we post it. But basically, the way it works is protocols are handed down from the state, the California Department of Health, and each county has the right to be stricter than the state's requirements. No county can be less strict, but they can be more strict. LA County, just with the sheer size of the county and The current circumstances, the numbers as they've increased, has generally tended to be a little bit more strict. So as long as we hit the LA County Department of Public Health protocols and standards, we believe we're in a pretty good place, and we're going to keep our kids and staff as safe as possible. I'd also share that we're still bound to follow CDC guidelines as well as Cal OSHA guidelines too. So there's just several experts in the field of public health, and we use all of them. But certainly our guidepost is the LA County Department of Public Health.
How are you ensuring safe drinking water on campus?
Sorry, is that me?
Yes.
So I'm gonna assume that this is referring to Legionnaire's disease. I'm hoping. So if not, we can send us an email and we could definitely try and clarify that. But when there's water that's sitting in pipes, when facilities aren't being used, there's some risk of Legionnaire's disease. We do keep our water running. So we have actively kept those kind of the water moving through the pipes so we could avoid that as being a concern. That's been part of our maintenance plan. In terms of safe drinking water, we will likely ask that families provide water for students, that they bring water bottles with them to school, because we are under orders not to have our water fountains on and functional. So we've had to cover them. We've had to put caution tape around the drinking water. However, at the same time, at some of our school sites, and we'll have to look more detail at installing them in other places, you are allowed to have bottle filling stations that are non-touch or minimal touch filling stations. So we will look at maybe adding some of those to our elementary school sites, but currently they exist at the middle school only. But no drinking fountains, and we are, for safe drinking water and safe water, we are flushing our pipes essentially to protect from Legionnaire's disease.
Are Wiseburn employees required to get tested? Would parents be given information if their child has been exposed to COVID while on campus? And will we have to quarantine?
So as Dr. Silver said, we have to follow the LA Department of Public Health guidelines, and all of our sites not only have been visited, but our safety protocols, our contact tracing, our communication plan, all of those had to be vetted by the department for us to even open up. And so at this time, testing is not required by the county, but we do have to have the wellness screening or the health screening every time anyone comes onto our campus. Saying that, should we have a positive case of COVID or exposure to COVID, then we have a communication plan in place. We have to do our own contact tracing with the county and let the cohort of students know, the cohort of teachers know, whoever may be impacted by this, that they are at risk. They are advised to get tested. They are not advised, but then they're required to self-isolate for 10 to 14 days based on what the guidance we get from the county. So there is a plan in place in terms of what happens if somebody does get COVID on our campus and what the next steps would be. So the most important thing is we want to keep our families and our parents aware and communicate with them and letting them know. And we also might want to ensure that our parents, in the same right, let us know if there is a case, that's in their house, or if one of the students gets it as well.
If I could just add to that too, is that when we start talking about testing, a test for COVID-19 is only as good as that moment in time. And so, unless you're testing on a very, very regular basis, a couple times a week or more, as we've seen some of the professional sports leagues are testing, every day, if not multiple times a day, to check for COVID positive or negative test results. Unless we're doing that on a very, very regular basis, which there's just not the capacity in LA County or anywhere, probably in California, to do. It is just that snapshot in time. It's not taking away from the power of a test. It's just saying that that positive or negative result is only good at that moment. It doesn't mean that tomorrow or 2 days from now that person hadn't been exposed and would test positive a couple days later. So again, it's really reinforcing those other measures too. It's having testing as an option, but reinforcing the face coverings, reinforcing those face shields if needed. It's reinforcing the physical distancing. It's reinforcing, outdoor time as much as possible, smaller groups, stable cohorts, safe practices at home, and all those other things that will help mitigate some of the risk and the spread of the virus. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Will there be recess and lunch? What protocols will be in place? I think this.
So this is yes for me. So there will, so recess and lunch will look different. I think that as we've sort of navigated this new normal, there's new terms and new terminology for everything, and it seems like it changes quite a bit. So if students are on campus and as students come back to campus, of course there's going to be breaks. There will be structured breaks. We'll have to stagger breaks, whether it be called lunch or recess. Or whatever we call it at that time, we would do it in a structured manner. And we would want to maintain those stable cohorts of 10 or 12 that the students were in class. You would almost have sort of pockets and or groups of students participating in recess in those small groups. And so it wouldn't be the large scale recess and or lunch that we're used to. It would be the new normal type of recess where students would work in their smaller pods or smaller groups or cohorts of students to do that. But certainly, we wouldn't expect students to spend 4 or 5 hours sitting in a classroom. We know that we have to schedule in breaks, and we want to. Students need to do jumping jacks, and we would have to sort of rearrange what recess looks like and what equipment, what games, those types of things can kids engage in that are still safe, but they get them to release some of that energy and have that social interaction.
How will we conduct performances and or promotions?
So, that's a tough question because, as we ended March last year, and as a father of an 8th grader that missed her graduation from Dana last year, I understand that these cherished moments are really important to families, are really important to our kids. And this is a group of students, over the last couple of years, last year and a half, that have missed some of these cherished moments. So we really do hope to find ways to honor these cherished moments. Again, when we start talking about new normal, when we start talking about what that may look like, it will look different. And the promotion, having 2,000 people in one venue may not be an option at the time. But if we could find other ways to honor those cherished moments, promotion, transitioning from maybe Cabrillo to 138, again, those cherished moments in a student's life. Some of the music performances that we missed or will miss. And again, I know that our partners with the Wiseburn Education Foundation are trying to find innovative ways to bring Rock Around the Block back in some capacity. So those events, and again, that would include a promotion type event or something of that nature, are all on the table for discussion and planning so that we could try and honor those events.
Thank you. There has been a significant increase in students experiencing depression and or anxiety due to the pandemic. What support does Wiseburn Unified School District have, and what is the district's plan for re-entry of students on campus? Will there also be mental health screenings of students?
It's a great question. I know that as a school district and as educators, we focus really on what's going on in the classroom, but really the social emotional wellness of our students is such an important part or crucial part of the work that we're doing in the classrooms, on Zoom, on our campuses. And so at the beginning of this year, we actually did increase our care team. So we have 3 elementary school counselors now, as well as the 2 counselors at Dana. And so we have increased the services that we're providing to our students. Along with that, our counseling system has always been kind of a tiered approach. So tier 1 is for all of our students. So we are providing services to all students. The second tier really looks at more of additional skill building support for our students. And then finally, the third tier, which is really the clinically based services that our counselors provide. And so the care team has been providing a steady flow of services for students, especially with social, emotional, mental health needs. And it's really about not just anxiety, but also life transitions, parents going through divorce or what the school closure is doing, self-esteem, grief, trauma. And most importantly, though, we've actually increased the number of parents and families that we've been serving through parents attending counseling groups, consultations, and services. And so we are really proud of the work we've done, not just with our students, but with our families as well. And one of the reasons is, and as we all know as parents, is that we're spending more time with our students at home. And so we've taken on the role of not just parent, but sometimes it's the teacher, the playmate, and the counselor. So we're trying to help our parents also have a healthy dynamic in the house. But also as we return and as we prepare to return, the care team is going to continue to work closely with our site principals, our teachers, the school psychologists, and so that we can develop a series of support lessons for the students to ensure there's a strong or a healthy transition back to campus, and continue with online activities, continuing with the referral system. And so we want to ensure, first off, that our students are safe on campus, and that they know that it's going to be a transition. For many students, they haven't been back on campus since March, and so that phased-in approach that we're using, bringing in a few students at a time, is also helping that transition piece.
And I know I probably shouldn't add to that, because that was a nice, long, and a very thorough response. But I'm going to add to it, and I just want to say that I think that as adults, we've also seen that. We've felt this sort of boxed-in feeling of feeling at home and feeling kind of the inability to do and to live as freely as maybe we would have liked. And so we certainly understand that this is going to impact our students. And we also know that we don't know the level of impact that it's going to have on our students. So we do have to put our resources into that, because strong and good and positive, or good mental health and social emotional health is really vital to learning. And so we know the two cannot be, they're not mutually exclusive. They need to sort of be in balance so that learning happens. And so it's really going to be a focus for us, and it's something that we're going to have a really keen eye as to what may be markers or warning signs or symptoms of mental health issues, social emotional issues, so that we can help support our students and their families.
Thank you. Will a COVID vaccine be required to return to school?
The vaccine, we've heard so much about in the last few days, and so we know it's at the forefront of everyone's mind. So we all know at this time there isn't a vaccine available to us yet. It will be available soon, but at this time it's not a requirement to be on campus or to be any of that. But we do look forward to guidelines from CDC in terms of what those requirements will be as the vaccine is readily available for everyone. But at this time, there is not a requirement for students to have the vaccine to be on campus.
Thank you. And I believe that is my last question.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy, for reading. Wendy always reads the comments, public comments, and the questions. So thank you for doing that. Thank you to the team for being on tonight too, and answering the questions. Thank you to the families for submitting questions. There probably are more, and we will make it a point to have more of these opportunities for families to ask questions, and for us to be able to show up in this format. Hopefully at one point it's an in-person format, but right now obviously we know it's via Zoom. And just know that we do miss you all, and miss seeing you at back to school nights and open houses and these performances that we really dearly miss. And I think most importantly, we miss seeing the students every day. I mean, we just as I'm sure you've talked to your teachers and so forth. It's really difficult when you're in this in education not to see kids laughing in the hallways and playing on the playgrounds and all of that. So it is our goal, it's our hope that we bring our students back as soon as we can, as we feel it's safe. And so, when we do start hearing a lot of news, media, a lot of news attention towards vaccines, and we are seeing that there's some movement. We're seeing a potential, quote unquote, light at the end of the tunnel, and we are hopeful. We're hopeful that these will stick and that things will work, and that we'll be able to bring our students back in larger numbers than we may have been able to, or may have thought previously. And again, so to highlight some of the key points and key takeaways, and just so that the community knows, our focus is that we understand that we have, students that are at risk of some learning gaps, and we have students at risk of social emotional maybe some mental health issues or social emotional issues. And we want to put those students at the forefront of our thoughts and our minds and our efforts as they come back to school and even in the virtual setting. So please reach out should you find a need to do that. Our care team, middle school counseling team, and are just phenomenal. And so please reach out should you need them. Also, the hybrid model is taking a look at what the hybrid model may look like. We're actively in the planning stages of what that hybrid model will look like, because it will be drastically different than distance learning now, right? I mean, as we start bringing students back, it's going to require a change to the student schedule again, which we know has an impact. They'll have a change to the family schedule, the parent schedule, the caregiver schedule. As we start bringing students back. So we want to be able to get those done. We want them to be efficient and effective. We want students to be able to be at school for as long as they safely can on a given day and for a period of time. But, so we're steadily working on that so that we can provide a blueprint for how that will look for families. And then childcare and preschool. And we know that, currently we're not offering that, but we do look to very soon start being able to market that. Our next moves with preschool, our preschool enrichment program, that will be a full day program, hopefully very soon at the Del Air site. Again, it may start at Cabrillo, but certainly looking forward to that. And then as students start coming back to school, that we also have some childcare options for families that may need that as well. So we're looking at all those options, planning, and really excited to start seeing students come back. So despite some of the news that may seem a little bit more bleak, we really remain optimistic. We remain optimistic that we're going to be able to do right by our kids, by our families, by the community, because we just have a committed group of staff members, of teachers, of community members that are here to support our students. So I want to thank everybody for being there today. Again, thank you to the team. And should we not see each other before the holidays, we wish you a very healthy, happy break, happy holiday season, a happy new year, and all of those things. And definitely be on the lookout for messages and news from the district. I really appreciate you being here today. So thank you, and look forward to seeing you in person soon.